So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tuesday's version or the how-to series with ICBF. So today we're joined by Dan O'Riordan. Dan does an awful lot of work in the background that people probably have no clue about, Dan, to be honest, in reality, about what you do there in Ballincollig every day. So Dan is going to talk to us today about identifying cows for dairy AI, sex semen and beef AI. And he's going to be looking at kind of actually using the program itself so that you can learn some tips and tricks, I suppose, about how to drive it and navigate it yourselves. And you can do a bit of exploring on it, I suppose. That's the best advice to people, is to actually play around with it then, really, isn't it? To see where they want to go and find what they want to find, and see, we'll say, I suppose, when you can refine it to as much as you like and don't like, basically, and you can see how hard you can push things very quickly. A system, a way you couldn't do when you're just looking at catalogs, like we'll say, down through the years. You really have the options of refining your targets here to see how many bulls will be left that are fulfilling your extreme criteria. Then maybe if there aren't enough, you might have to ease off on some of the criteria. But obviously you're going to show us all that, and you have a few slides that you're going to go through there first as well, then.
Yeah, so Stuart, thanks for the invitation there to come on this afternoon there. So look, we're just going to go through maybe just picking females, just following on from Kevin and yourself session there yesterday. So look, we think the system is user-friendly, and just to point out the ones, maybe the problem cows, the ones we should really be targeting for dairy AI, and look, there might be some in-between animals there we might be doing a bit of everything with. So look, we'll try and go through that there, and I just have a few slides maybe just to give a bit of background here first, if I can try and get going at them here now first. Anyway, 1 second now. So look, as I say, I will start off with, I suppose, very much the basics. We can't generate an EBI or have valid indexes or valid inbreeding checkers unless the sires are recorded. So look, there's plenty of farmers, if they actually take a look at under record events and missing sires, there's probably a few females there that probably do need updating there. So look, we can very easily enter in the AI code or the tag number of stock book if necessary. And look, I'd encourage every farmer to look at that. Have a look, see is everything up to speed before you run the application such as Sire Advice. And look, if the sires aren't recorded, that inbreeding checker on your technician's handheld is invalid. You could be inbreeding. So look, I think it's very much the foundation stone of everything. And just to make sure, and again, the inbreeding checker on the sire voice, again, it could be not up to speed as well unless these sires are fully accurate. So look, I just want to highlight that there, just as a very much back to basics here, start off here.
So it's a bit of housekeeping then, isn't it? And I suppose the quickest place for people to see if they have to do this is actually if they just download their ICB or their EBI report, and it'll highlight on the different categories whether there's missing sires or we'll say dams.
On the screen there, Stuart, if you go to record events, the screen automatically opens up the animals missing sires only.
Oh, straight away, okay.
So, and you can obviously, I'll just show that in the moment there, so you can just immediately go to the dairy animals. Obviously, the dairy females, we'd like you to record the males as well, because that's vital information for evaluations, etc. But look, if we get the females up to speed, look, we might do that much. And keep in mind, Stuart, today we're going to be pushing live new evaluations, probably after 3 or 4 o'clock today, and it's a good day to have a look at our cows. And as the new evaluations, they will go live there this afternoon. There, all things going well.
Okay, very good. So then, I suppose, like I said to Kevin yesterday, people can't be giving out and complaining about EBI if they don't have accurate data in their own herd. So that's a very important point that you're after making there in relation to trying to correct those errors or maybe omissions, we'll say, I suppose. And we often see it on the co-op performance reports. We'll say maybe very good figures high up along. But as we move down into what should actually be 100% for everybody, really, is records of sires and calving and stuff like that. Should be a given that people complete those properly.
So, Stuart, look, the number of animals missing sires or missing EBIs, that the typical reason is the usual reason, 99% of the time, is the missing sire issue, and that'll be highlighted as well in the scorecard to Stuart, and that's something that will go out to dairy farmers again, same as last year, to all dairy farmers. So that'll be highlighted again. I can't stress how important it is to get it right, because your herd averages will be inaccurate in terms of EBI, your heifer EBIs. And look, things have tripped up farmers over in recent years, Stuart, is the 6-character codes. For example, we have farmers recording the 4 digits but not putting in the FR part or the JE or the SI or whatever the case may be. And a small bit of a change up as well, Stuart, of course, is when we went over to the 372 and the new tag format, guys are putting in the IE part and the system can't read it then. So look, just they are the two typical issues that we come across in terms of sire. There could be a lot of farmers genuinely making a very good attempt, Stuart, there of doing it correctly, but it's just they're the two little stumbling blocks there that we come across.
Okay.
And just to highlight that there. And look, it's a good time to look back at records. I suppose, Stuart, just as it was raised there yesterday, look, everything works off the base code. And look, I just said I'd highlight there on the slide there, just what is the base code there when you are looking at catalogs. So look, the base code performance there is about 6,000 kilos. It came up in your conversation there in terms of banding, of course, is very topical at the moment. And look, it's about 3.91% fat and 3.4% protein there. So look, it's based on a code that was milk record in 2007, and look, it was last updated in December 2017. And look, as you can see there, look, there's that's just to give a bit of background there, just on what has the base code there.
Very good. It's good to set the scene anyway in terms of what's the zero cow able to do. Yeah.
Yes, they came up there, so it was just handy just for the viewers there this lunchtime. And look, this will be available this will be updated. So look, this figures will slightly change. You'll see it there in the next 24 hours or 36 hours. But just to give a background again, look, what are the average? So look, the average herd is 160 euros at the moment, and the average of the 2022 barn heifers is in around 94. There'll be slight changes, of course, when this changed there this afternoon, but it just sets the scene there. Look, where are my heifers? Where are my cows in general? As I say, and look, we'll be delving into this a bit more. It just gives the ranking, and we update this, as I say, after every evaluation there. So look, the EBI profile there, I suppose, Stuart, we're trying to veer farmers maybe away from the reports a little bit and trying to use the filters on the EBI profile. So obviously, look, the general advice there is trying to breed from cows or females that have a greater EBI of 150. Look, we're obviously trying to target maybe in terms of fertility, maybe 80 or more. Is there any other traits that we can filter on? Look, there might be PTAs on milk kilos. We'll look at that in the demo there shortly after the few slides are finished. And then there's easy to use from and to filter. So I can look at cows, for example, that are positive for milk or negative for milk, low PTAs for fat and protein. I can start really looking at my cows, and every herd will have a different range. Of course, the scorecard is also available on the screen as well. But I just think that farmers maybe in general, maybe just don't use the filters. And of course, every profile we have is downloadable to Excel. Again, if you want to do even more detailed analysis, but look, the screen will do, probably 80-90% of the job you actually wish to do anyway. So I just want to highlight that there on this particular slide. And look, as I say, just type in the 150 there, and then you can filter this to 180. And look, we get down to list of females that should be the best to breed from, just very, very quickly. So maybe to plan ahead, I suppose we need to look back, and maybe I need to look back at maybe the fertility performance from last year. Look, the fertility profile there, we can look back now and see what cows went in calf for the first serve last year, for example. That's all available on the fertility profile. For example, on the opposite side of the coin, look what cows took 3 or more serves to go on calf, or did they go on calf at all? The calving information is there. And look, again, the fertility profile will very quickly highlight the cows that are doing the best, and obviously the other side are doing the worst. And look, if you see there in the blue there, the tag number there, if you click on it, you can pull up the fertility history of an animal very, very quickly. And that, of course, Stuart, is very, very important in terms of perhaps if I need to look back on what bred a calf this year, I could look back at what she was served to last June or May, whatever the case may be. So again, if we're not sure what a calf is bred from, and I always send out the expected calving list there with the pocket notebook, but you can look back on, especially if you buy in a cow, Stuart, the fertility history should be following the animal there, and it should be there if it's recorded. So just a very quick to highlight that there as well to the viewers there this lunchtime.
Very good. So I suppose just like you're probably going to cover it now in the demo, obviously, but people might filter out their list on the basis of the EBI. The fat and the protein percentages will be something that we'd be very strong on. And then they can actually filter out the number of serves then to identify the cows that are going in calf very readily, I suppose. For sex then is the key thing to take from there. And as like you said, that people can do nearly whatever they want in those lists, really, like.
Oh, definitely, Stuart. So look, I think it'll give you a great picture. So following on from Kevin's review of the reports, now we're delving into the cows. To be honest with you, Stuart, you could spend a week at the cows before you've selected any bull,
Yeah.
You could, I know there's loads of information there, but we're trying to maybe debunk it a little bit, make it less scary, and just maybe with a few simple things here, we can really target cows that for dairy, for beef, etc., for sex semen. And I suppose we're just trying to really highlight how easy it is to use there. And look, we'll highlight that a little bit later on there now in the demo. So Stuart, look, a new profile there that was launched there last autumn, I suppose, is the dairy weighing heifer profile. We have a lot of, obviously, dairy farmers contract rearing. There's a lot more heifers being weighed for on farm contract rearing, non-contract rearing. And look, maybe now is a good time to see, well, how did they do last year? Did they come in? Were they housed at the target weights? This particular profile will highlight the ones that they didn't come in maybe on target. And this looks at the maintenance figure of the particular heifer. Look, at 6 months, it should be 30% of the mature weight. At 15 months, it should be 60, and about 24 months should be 90% of the mature weight. And we use the maintenance sub-index there to highlight that there. And again, heifers that meeting targets, do they need to be looked at now at turnout? Will they prove difficult to put in calf? So there's obviously management issues around that. And again, all our profiles, again, if you click on the blue tag number, the jumbo on screen, look, the lactation summary, fertility, and history all pops up, and any previously recorded live weights come up on the animal. And look, it's also available in HerPlus app. So look, I just think that maybe farmers might not have checked this out. Particularly herds who are recording weights regularly, it'll pop up first. So look, just to highlight this one, this is a good opportunity now to have a look at our heifers. Maybe heifers are going to be weighed now before turnout and see where they're at.
Yeah, very useful. Just very quickly, I suppose the beauty of it is it's just identifying those ones that are behind and it's categorizing them. So like we'll say if an animal was maybe in the 0 to 10 category, they're not, they're highlighted one shade of red, is it?
They're shade of red, and the green will be okay. And so look, it's color coded there, Stuart. We're kind of veering towards that in our general profiles, just to highlight these animals more readily and more quickly, and trying to simplify it. And again, we're trying to, I suppose, take away. It's not very difficult to look at these animals, and to help with management decisions on farm,
Very good.
So look, Stuart, this is probably another one that maybe dairy farmers haven't looked at all, is the carcass merit profile. I suppose we're getting queries in, look, what is the carcass merit or beef merit of my animals? And I'll just highlight this is available on review profiles as well. And look, this highlights, I suppose, there's cows in your herd with both positive and negative values. And look, maybe farmers can look back to see maybe there's cows with more negative values. Of course, this is in the overall context of we're trying to integrate the dairy and the beef. There's been carbon and beef sub-index changes there in the valuation there last November. So look, farmers can now just have a little bit more closer look at the carcass merit cows. Maybe they haven't looked at it all, but look, it's just worth a quick look at. I just highlighted there to the viewers who might never have looked at this before. So it is there. You can actually check their carcass merit there. So look, this comes up as kind of a question there. Look, I suppose cow is supposed to be clear is for culling. Really, that's what it's ranking on screen. It's not to be used for breeding, but cow, of course, will highlight, I suppose, poor performers. There's a reason why cows are on the bottom of cow. Look, just I highlighted there. Look, this one's low EBI, for example. Look, there's been SSC issues here with these couple of cows last year. Look, there's a later calving animal here. So look, cow is kind of one of these ones where you kind of look from bottom up, and so maybe these cows now, for example, can be marked for culling. Obviously, ideal that's what is there. And look, it's only as good as the data required. So look, if there was any mastitis or lameness there, to rank it more accurately. So these ones now are obviously, look, is this cow now for culling or for skid row? And look, maybe there's cows here that maybe the lower rank, but maybe I mark them for beef. But so I would say there would be no issue using it for that. I would not use cow to identify cows that are for breeding. I would select from my best EBI cows. They're your best bet and passing on the next genetics to the dairy heifers being born from those cows. So I would make that clear distinction there. Now, there might be a cow with a high EBI, for example, here, and it might be down towards the bottom 25% of the cow, but there's probably another reason for that. It's an SSE, an environmental issue, got lame, got mastitis, 3 paps, whatever. It could be anything, but that doesn't mean to say that cow won't pass on that good genetics that she has in terms of the calf going on. So just want to make that clear distinction, because there is kind of maybe farmers that we hear using this for breeding, and we just want to highlight that's just to revert back to EBI in terms of those breeding decisions. That is that's the best bet in town as far as I can see,
Okay.
So look, milk recording herds have had even more great fast information they are available to them there. And again, look, the poor performers here, again, the color coded here, look, the low margin cows and lifetime milk recording profile. And I can now look at the Fromen too, look which ones are poor in kilos, poor in fat, poor in protein, look high SSE. Look, I can really start taking a look at cows individually once I have this milk recording data again. And that just will feed into my picture again and what ones I really want to breed from again. Dairy, beef, culling, etc. So look, there's a huge wealth of information there again, and you can actually click on the blue number there. It pulls up the whole milk recording history. So look, the milk recording herds really have a huge array of information at their fingertips.
I suppose then the key, before you jump into the demo there, like I suppose the key thing there is that you don't have to look at every cow. You just want to interrogate the few cows, maybe the cows that you think might be a good cow, and next thing you're seeing that they're showing up as a red. So why is she showing up as a red? You just click into her there and you can get the full information behind her. And yeah, she takes a long time to milk, but it's because she's slow to milk as opposed to because she has a lot of milk.
Yeah. and just as probably the animal is poor to the rest of her contemporaries, she's poor compared to the rest of the contemporaries. The third lactation cows, for example, she's the poorest of the bunch, or she's the poorest of the contemporaries, the fifth lactation or the second. So, you can highlight all these cows very readily. Now, the color coding, I suppose, tries to speed it up for the farmer. But again, I would really encourage farmers to look at the Fromen too. You can really pull out those cows very, very quickly. It's not rocket science by no means, and just to take a little bit of time to do it. And again, this week is a good week to look at the cows now before I select any bulls.
Very good.
So, look, I suppose we're trying to encourage farmers in general just to use the Soil Advice Plus options. I suppose, Stuart, last year, for example, we introduced dairy beef matings, but look, we have maybe about 20-25% of our herds probably Macchio cows for dairy and beef and the crossbreeding and the culling. So we like to get that up more, which and especially in the context of us of banding, maybe there's restrictions of cow numbers, there's nitrates. So look, there's a whole lot of good reasons now we really have to take a sharp and hopefully informed look at our cows, and making decisions.
I suppose then just to point out to people there that our Teagasc advisors are in a position to help people with this. Like, we have worked very closely with the advisors know what they're doing in terms of navigating the list there. And I suppose the one thing I would say is that we can only look at the numbers where we're sitting from. Like, yourself and myself can look at a herd of cows and we can say that cow's good, that cow's bad based on the numbers. But the farmer themselves is the person who knows what that animal is like. And I think Kevin said it yesterday, you might have the best cow in the country, basically in numbers terms, but if she's an extremely cross animal, you may not actually want a replacement from her. So you have to just marry the kind of the phenotypic or the actual live thing with the numbers as well. But there are plenty of people who are more than willing to help with doing sire advice for people, like, so they don't need to feel alone, I suppose, because it's a bit daunting, I suppose, when you're not familiar with it. We're very familiar with it, like.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. So look, at the end of the day, the farmer knows his or her own cow's the best at the end of the day. But look, we can look at the data till the cows come home, pardon the pun. But the farmer, he or she is the guy in the parlour morning, evening, look, handling these cows, dealing with these cows, and look, they can see maybe temperament issues if there is. So look, it's a good point. But look, as Stuart has said, look, we can help a farmer so much over the phone with X, Y, or Z. But look, the ability there to sit down and advise, or particularly this time of the year, and pick those cows out. Look, it's great, So look, I suppose we've been working hopefully hard over the spring, like all other farmers around the country have been doing with calving. So we've actually hope to put live towards the end of this week, as Kevin alluded to yesterday, sex semen options. We hope we try to make the cows picky up for sex semen, which is quite tricky, and we hope to make it less tricky. We can mark poor for farmers in our Soil Advice Plus version. It goes into the female selector screen for BFI. There's a hydrosis option available for when selecting cows for crossbreeding. You can mark for culling, and of course there is farmers that are requested by, for example, ale companies to do selective mating. Look, that option is there as well in the Soil Advice Plus. So Stuart, I might now just do a quick couple of demos and maybe some of the things we have just mentioned there.
Okay.
Next, if I can.
Yeah.
So Stuart, look, just very, very quickly, look, as we were talking about it, look, I probably started off here on the record events screen and record missing sires. This is where you go in here to look at those. So this will populate a list of animals that are potentially missing on the screen. So you can enter in the tag number. You see if you just type in IE there,
Yeah.
pull up a list of our 372. We try to make this job a little bit easier, particularly if they're stock pull bred. And again, you might have to look at the fertility profile there to look at animals that are animals that are bred from EI, for example.
Okay.
So let's start. Over our start. So look, this is kind of the landing screen there. Look, the farmer will see currently log in. So look, the required missing sire options there straight away. The nitrate bending is there just to highlight to viewers that may not have submitted it yet. So Stuart, look, just to have a look now at maybe the fertility profile. So I'm just going to go in here under general and click on fertility. And look, as we had mentioned it, look, just it's very, very easy. So look, if I just go from, you see here across the columns, if I just go from 1 to 1, load the cows here that, just had the one served there, for example, there, last year. And I can now look at maybe some of the ones that are, had took 3 or more. Again, I'm looking at these now from the view, well, what are I going to do with these? These are not ones for sex semen, that's one thing for sure. And again, I'm going to jump in here to the EBI profile, as I had mentioned it here. And again, just to highlight again, I can highlight the ones here from, very, very quickly. Look, what ones are 150 or more. And again, I just want to maybe target my ones that are very good in fertility. You can see here the number of animals that start coming down. And then if I can look, some farmers there are probably looking at, the figures there with maybe my low fat cow, my low protein. Again, I can use the arrow keys here to start looking at these more sharply. My low fat ones, again, use the arrow key here. It's pointed down. In terms of, do I really want these to be, do I need to breed from those, even though there might be a good EBI? They might not they might not tie in my hair goals, going forward. And again, it's very, very easy. And look, some farmers, Stuart, are looking at cows with, say, from 0 to 10 on maintenance. So 10 euros is approximately 590 kilos. And look, maybe again, they're might be looking at, look, do I want to, if these ones are beef, maybe, do I want to tailor the size of my cow up or down? And again, I suppose, Stuart, we just want to highlight here one that farmers tend to misunderstand, but it's in the context of maybe selecting cows and bulls. But look, there's cows, as you can see, in every herd that are negative for min kilos. And there's cows in there that are very positive for min kilos. So every farmer will have a very strong range of cows here in that category. And that's in part in the context of selecting bulls or sires, because, some farmers are very negative or reluctant to pick negative min kilo bulls, but my sire advice will take care of all that, will match or mate negative min kilo bulls to this type of cow in the background in the mating program. And that's obviously in part with all the context of banding, etc. So look, we just want to highlight, if every farmer looks at this the next year or two before we might do the sire advice on Thursday, they will see big ranges in their individual PTAs and their cows there, Stuart.
And then just on that milk kilos there now, when you filtered it, like there's actually 800 kilos of a range nearly in that herd alone there.
Yeah.
So like that herd might be coming out at 0 milk on the actual EBI profile, potentially now if it was a 50-50 split, like, but there, as you said, there's a massive range inside there. So,
and again, we just feel in general that maybe farmers just don't look at things like this, look at the filters, the arrow keys, and look at it very, very quickly. You can start pulling cows out, pulling cows in, and this is my poor manager's herd here, Kevin, and ICBF was on yesterday, so we won't be breaching GDPR by saying that anyway. But,
I suppose the other thing then is that like the beauty of the sire advice, as you said, like where people don't have sire advice there, with the, like, even though the technicians will be doing the inbreeding checks, maybe when they are picking a sire out there is a potential that you're going to add. Like you could have a plus 200 bull selected for bulling for use this season, and that bull could be potentially used on that first cow there. We'll say that's at 420 already. Okay, it knocks a bit of the age off of her if it's a plus 200, but if it happened to be a plus 400 bull for whatever reason, it's actually maintaining that animal at that high level. And I suppose the objective is to try and compress everything into kind of a tighter range, really, isn't it? And
Yeah.
sire advice is going to do that for you. Like you said, it's going to help. So like people really do need to be talking to them, to their advisors or to yourselves, maybe themselves, and the AI companies in terms of running sire advice to actually make sure that they mate the right bull to the right cow, really. Like,
and picking the cow, Stuart, look, it is a time, it is probably the linkiest job. You know, it's probably easier to pick out 7 or 8 bulls or 9 or 10 bulls. This will take this is the extra, I suppose, the extra level that I suppose farmers will really try to get to. So look, just in the context of, look, they're all Excelable, just to highlight that there again, and just very quickly, Stuart, before I do the demo on the sex, semen type options that are going to go live hopefully shortly. If you click on the tag number and all the profile screen, up the various tabs. So look, just the fertility one, as we were just talking about it there. You can look back on the fertility history here if I need to work with a sire, or look what happened last year. Did she take extra service? So look, there's huge information here in all the tabs, and they're all uniform across all the, of course, the milk recording information shoots up there if I need to there. And look, any other information there recorded there maybe, as well as on the animal as well. So look, we just think that there's a, at your fingertips there, there's a huge, and so I would stress as well, Stuart, look, this particular filtering obviously is much easier. This is probably the one job you need to do, switch on the laptop or PC for, you know, maybe if you have a tablet, of course, you can switch to desktop there, maybe use a tablet device, but I suppose you can't really do this with a phone, I think, unless you're extremely good on a phone. But you need to do the filtering off a laptop or PC. It's just the one job you probably do have to switch it on for as well, just to highlight to viewers there this afternoon. So, Stuart, I'll just try and jump in now to the demo on the half of the new options that will go live there shortly now next, if I can.
Okay, so just while you're doing that, there's a person after asking, will the webinars be recorded and uploaded later to watch? So yeah, we're recording them at the moment, and my colleague Padraig O'Connor is editing them, and we'll be making them available through our own website, and we'll probably link up with you as well, Dan, that they'll be available through your website too. I think it'd be most sensible thing to do. Yeah,
no, Stuart, no, it's definitely come in there. A couple of queries coming on our side as well, just looking for them as well. So no, that's great, Stuart. So, Stuart, is that flashing up there again?
You're live there now, yeah.
So, Stuart, this will be now the Sire Advice Plus now. So when a farmer now selects it, they'll be asked this question: do you plan on using sex semen? This is part of this breeding season. So if you click no, you'll go into the standard version that's currently there. But I'm just going to click yes for this lunchtime session. And, you know, you'll be asked now to enter in a meeting start date. And I presume, look, Monday the 24th will probably be a date when a lot of breeding season will be kicking off. So I'm going to click yes to this now. So this is just in our test environment there. It just works a little bit slower there than the live. So now, Stuart, I suppose what's new here. So look, the number of days from calving. So I'll be looking for, in terms of sex semen, is looking at cows that are at a minimum of 60 days calved or more. This is new as well. Of course, we kind of put the milk kilos and fat and protein together, regrouped them. But as you can see now, I have the sexed option, so I can pick out the cows for sexed. I got that's the dairy default, the conventional dairy that stays as is. I can mark for culling and beef that stays as is, and selected mating crossbreeding. So now I have all these hopefully extra tools there now. So look, I suppose just in the context of our earlier discussion, look, I might just pick out cows there, you know, from 0 to maybe 120. I might just make the decision here now. Look, these are definitely beef candidates. No questions asked on that. And Stuart, I'm just going to do a couple of different things here on picking the cows, and just to see how easy it is. And now, Stuart, you know, I really don't want to target my sex semen, for example, at my you know, cows are at least a minimum of 150. And again, I might just put this filter up sharper up to 100 on the fertility. And Stuart, look, I don't really want the number of serves you can see here is here. I don't really want any cow here that selected here that took you know, anything more than one serve. So obviously the heifers will come up 0 anyway, but in terms of the younger cows. So now, Stuart, there was about 97 animals started off with, and now down to 17 candidates. But now there's health events issues. So if there's anything recorded last year, mastitis, lameness, you know, you don't really want anything with any issues coming in. So I'm going to put that filter now to 0 to 0. Now down to 14 candidates possibly here now for sex semen. They're mostly, as you can see here, they're mostly heifers or first calved heifers or cows. And I know, I might, if I want to filter a bit further here on fat and protein, I can look to, if I pour protein or fat, look, I might not be happy there to go with Sexton, that one. Or I might just focus on the best protein one here now. So look, I might just mark her for Sext here on the system. I'm just going to do quickly, just a quick version of it. Can go further. The milk kilos, of course, is topical. I have a range here now of on the sex semen of cows that are both positive and negative, so I can make different decisions here. I'm just going to undo some of these filters now here as well. I'm going to clear the filters here. So look, I might now just as well maybe just very simply mark for culling maybe one of my lowest EBI, just for the sake of the highlight here, just the low EBI cows, or you would be able to look at your milk recording or maybe cow profile for any other troublesome candidates here as well. You'd have that made note of as well before I start ticking them off for culling. I might now just for the sake of them, look, maybe this one was one I might be requested for selective mating. Again, as you can see here, the table is populating here as I'm going on. And just to highlight here to the viewers now, if I want both dairy and beef matings, I just select the enabled option here, just to highlight it here to the group, and this will tie in now what we'll be covering on Thursday, hopefully. And Stuart, look, I haven't done anything too fanciful there, I would argue, in terms of making selections there. And then, I'm just using the main things that farmers will select on. And again, if I still want a little bit more information on a cow, I just click on the jumbo number here on the screen. If I want to look at a little bit more depth, again, I can look at the fertility before I make any final decisions. I can look at the milk, before I make any final decisions. Again, that information that's on all their profiles comes up here again, that I can actually open up here before I make any decisions there. And look, I've backed them for beef. Have I anything? Yes, and look, I might just look at now. Maybe there's cows there, maybe there's mid-range cows, we'll call them, from 0 to 150, that maybe I might just select some of those for maybe crossbreeding, if they're low, for example, or if they're low on other traits. Look, you can mark them for crossbreeding. Look, the other criteria where farmers will use, the breed percentage here, for example, can be selected. There'll be different things going on here in terms of the crossbreeding to maximize the drosses. But again, I just want to highlight in this particular demo just how easy it is to pull them out, tick them off, and it shouldn't. Once you have a clear idea of your reports and the cows you want to breed from, the cows you don't want to breed from, this becomes very, very easy. I would see, once I have all those decisions kind of thought through, this is the easy part. Once I have all that process, I suppose, in my mind, are completed.
And then I suppose a lot of farmers now are using smartphones, obviously. And as you said, you mentioned the app already, or maybe they might be using other apps as well that will be feeding back into you. Like if a farmer identifies a cow for culling outside in the yard basically today, so he sees a cow, for whatever reason he says, I don't want to have her coming in again now next year basically, and he marks her for culling on his farm software or on the app, that's automatically populated when it comes in here. So it was we could be doing a little bit of this work on the fly basically, or on the move as well if we wanted to.
Correct,
so it's already done when we come to this point maybe.
So any cow, for example, that under the record events options here, marked for culling, any cow that's marked for culling here at any point during the year will be ticked off for culling on the side voice screen there when you go into it,
Okay. So there's just one question there now as well then, and this is one that I've bounced off of you once or twice now, so hopefully we'll be able to get to a solution to it there in the next couple of months, I think we're talking about. But in relation to projected offspring with third voice, can you physically set the target offspring, or will they assume an average of bull team selected? So it's a slight difference on like what we're saying to you about is where we do select out those cows, can we get the calf prediction to be reflective of the cows that you're actually going to breed?
Yeah, so that's just the projected averages of the calves on the PDF report there in the sire advice. So we'll just go into a little bit more depth on Thursday there. But Michael, at the moment, I suppose if you've pulled those cows out for beef, you should be seeing a higher average, but we're just not that advanced yet on the background, because look, I suppose we just in the last 2 years, I suppose, Michael, it's something that's on the to-do list to make that better, but we've probably focused. It took a lot of development work last year to get the dairy beef matings in. I'll try and explain that better on Thursday, what happens there. And we've, as you can see, the sex semen has obviously become, there's lab sexing now, so look, a lot more bulls are available. So the sex semen, we put our resource into that there. It's on the to-do list. Maybe this time next year we might have that done. So, but
and it's actually an interesting point Michael is making there, then, because I suppose what we've been talking about when we've been discussing this is we pick our cows, and this is the bull team we've also selected now. So when we put the two together, what do we come out with? Whereas Michael's question is probably, can we set what we want to come out with? And can we do it in reverse in your faces saying, God, no.
Not just yet, but
no,
Michael,
no, not just yet, but like
that would be tricky to do, Michael, of course, because it'll all look, how good are your cows? You know, how many cows are you over 150? There'll be farmers that mightn't have a whole pile of cows over 150, and if you set a target of, look, 300 euro EBI in your progeny, it might be very, very difficult if I do set a target. So look, we'll discuss a bit more. We're trying to develop or generate the best balanced mating. That's what the sire advice program tries to do there. So setting targets might be good in certain herds, but in other herds it would probably cause a crash on my side here in terms of the program running through, you know. So but look, Michael, it's a fair point. I know farmers are, and Stuart, I know advisors, of course, are keen on putting targets down. And obviously, if you don't set a target, you won't try and have an objective or goal to meet as well. I can accept that as well, you know.
Yeah, very good. So thanks for that kind of whistle stop tour, the whole thing then. And I think in fairness, it was well worth pointing out some of the bits and pieces of information that people maybe need to update for their own herds to make sure things are right. So it's a good use of the broadcast from that purpose as well. So look, Dan is going to be back again on Thursday to talk about the actual sire advice program. Himself and myself are in Kildalton tomorrow. I think I understand, Dan, you're going to be there as well. So John McCabe is going to be sitting in for me, and Siobhan Ring is going to be sitting where Dan is sitting to talk about the dairy beef index. So that's an important piece for people to tune into tomorrow. Obviously, there's a big emphasis on selecting good quality beef in dairy herds as well into the future to try and close the loop, I suppose, of that circular economy in relation to dairy and beef integration. So thanks, Dan, for coming on. Thanks to you for tuning in, folks. And as I said already, we'll make these available as quickly as we can on both websites, okay? So talk to you again. I'll be back again on Friday, I think, myself. So thank you.